Japan has one of the lowest obesity rates of any wealthy nation on Earth, not by a small margin, by an enormous one. While much of the developed world struggles with rising weight year after year, Japan has remained remarkably lean, generation after generation. And here's the part that makes it genuinely fascinating. They've done it without the thing the rest of the world is obsessed with. Without fad diets, without calorie counting apps, without punishing gym regimens or meal replacement shakes, or the endless cycle of restriction and rebound that so many people know all too well. Walk through a Japanese city and you'll notice it almost immediately. People are, on the whole, slim, and not in a way that looks starved or effortful. They eat well, and often, and with obvious pleasure. Rich meals, rice, noodles, plenty of food. And yet the weight problems that plague so much of the modern world are strikingly rare. It seems at first like a contradiction. How do you eat freely, enjoy your food, never diet in the way we understand it, and stay lean your whole life? And somewhere else in the world right now, someone is on their 4th diet of the year. They're exhausted by it. They've tried counting, cutting, fasting, restricting. They've white-knuckled their way through plans that made them miserable, lost some weight, and watched it come right back the moment they stopped. They feel like their body is working against them, like staying at a healthy weight requires a constant, joyless battle they're destined to keep losing. Here's what almost nobody realizes. The gap between these two people has almost nothing to do with willpower, genetics, or some special Japanese metabolism. It comes down to a handful of small, everyday eating habits. Habits so deeply woven into Japanese food culture that people there don't even think of them as habits, and that most of the rest of us were simply never taught. These aren't rules about what to eat, so much as they are quiet practices about how to eat. And together, they keep an entire nation lean, effortlessly, without a single day of what we'd call dieting. Today, we're going to walk through 7 of these eating habits. Some of them will genuinely surprise you, because they have nothing to do with the foods themselves. A few of them you could begin at your very next meal, tonight, at no cost and with no restriction whatsoever. And I promise you, by the end of this video, you'll understand not just what these habits are, but why they work on a level that no diet ever will, and which one to try first. Stay with me all the way to number 5, because number 5 is the one that flips everything you've been taught about eating on its head, and it might be the single most powerful habit on this entire list. But it only makes full sense once you've seen the 4 that come before it, starting with the habit that a Japanese meal is quite literally built around. The idea underneath all 7. Before we get to the habits, there's one thing you need to understand, because it's the thread running through every single one of them, and it explains the whole paradox of eating freely and staying lean. In much of the modern world, we approach weight through restriction. We identify weight as a problem, and we attack it with force, cutting foods, slashing calories, denying ourselves, following rigid plans built on willpower and deprivation. And this approach fails over and over for a simple reason. It's a war against your own appetite, and appetite always wins in the end. You can restrict for a while, but you can't restrict forever. And the moment you stop, everything comes rushing back. Restriction is, by its nature, temporary, which is exactly why diets are temporary too. Japanese eating culture doesn't work through restriction at all. It works through structure and habit, the quiet, everyday way food is prepared, served, and eaten. Nobody in Japan is white-knuckling their way through a diet. They're simply eating the way their culture has always eaten. In a certain manner, at a certain pace, in certain amounts and arrangements, that naturally leads to eating a sensible amount without any conscious effort at all. The leanness isn't the goal they're fighting toward. It's a byproduct, a natural result of how they eat, requiring no willpower, no deprivation, no battle. This is the real lesson, hiding underneath all 7 habits. You don't stay lean by fighting your appetite. You stay lean by building small habits that quietly shape how much you eat, so that a healthy amount becomes the natural, effortless default. Keep that in mind as we go. Let's begin. Number 1, they stop eating at 80% full. There's a phrase spoken quietly before meals in Japan, especially in Okinawa, that has been passed down for generations. Hara hachibu. It means eat until you are 80% full, not stuffed. Not until you physically can't take another bite, just 80%, and then stop. This is perhaps the single most important eating habit in all of Japanese culture, and it may be the biggest reason an entire nation stays lean without dieting. Most of us, in most of the world, were raised to do the opposite. We eat until we're completely full, and often well past it, until we're heavy, sluggish, uncomfortable, reaching for the waistband of our pants. We were taught to clean our plates, to finish everything, to eat until there's no more room. A Japanese person practicing hara-hachi-bu does something fundamentally different. They eat with attention, and they stop while there's still a little room left. Here's the mechanism, and it's beautifully simple. There is a delay, roughly 20 minutes, between the moment your stomach is actually full and the moment your brain receives the signal that it's full. That gap is where overeating lives. If you eat quickly and eat until you feel full, you've almost always overeaten, because your brain hasn't caught up yet. 20 minutes later, you feel stuffed. But if you stop at around 80% and then wait, that signal has time to arrive and you discover that 80% was, in fact, exactly enough. You feel satisfied, not stuffed. And over a lifetime, this one small practice means you consistently eat somewhat less than you otherwise would. Not through restriction, but simply by stopping a little earlier. Notice how gentle this is. It's not a diet. It's not deprivation or counting or denial. It's just a pause and the simple discipline of stopping before you're completely full. That's the whole practice. And it's the foundation everything else builds on. The shift? Stop at 80% full instead of 100, and you naturally eat less without ever restricting a thing. That's number one. Number two, they eat slowly and with full attention. This habit is the essential partner to the first one, because hara-hachi-bu is nearly impossible if you eat fast, and Japanese eating culture is built around eating slowly and mindfully. A traditional Japanese meal is not something rushed or done while distracted. Food is eaten deliberately, savored, appreciated. There's a strong cultural thread, rooted partly in Zen Buddhist influence on Japanese food culture, that treats eating as an act deserving of full presence and attention. The food is noticed. Each bite is tasted. Meals are often eaten at a table, without the television blaring or the phone in hand, with the eater actually paying attention to what they're eating. Here's why this matters so profoundly for staying lean. And it connects directly to that 20-minute delay we just talked about. When you eat quickly, you can consume a huge amount of food before your brain ever registers fullness. You've cleared the plate and gone back for more, all within that 20-minute window, long before your body could signal enough. But when you eat slowly, you give that signal time to arrive while you're still eating, which means you naturally stop sooner, having eaten less and feeling perfectly satisfied. Eating slowly is, in a very real sense, one of the most effective weight tools that exists, and it costs nothing, requires no restriction, and simply asks you to slow down. There's a second layer too. Eating with full attention makes food more satisfying. When you actually taste and savor your meal, you feel more content with it, and you're less likely to feel that restless urge to keep eating or snacking afterward. Distracted eating, in front of a screen, on the go, barely tasting anything, leaves you strangely unsatisfied even when you've eaten plenty, which drives you to eat more. Present, attentive eating does the opposite. It satisfies you deeply, with less. The shift: eat slowly and actually taste your food, and your body will tell you it's full while there's still time to stop. That's number two. Number three, they serve food in small dishes, not big plates. Here's a habit that has nothing to do with willpower and everything to do with the quiet genius of how a Japanese meal is physically arranged. A traditional Japanese meal isn't served on one large plate piled high with food. Instead, it's presented across several small dishes and bowls. A bit of rice in one, some vegetables in another, a small portion of protein, a little soup, some pickled sides, many small servings, each in its own modest dish. This arrangement, which looks simply like beautiful presentation, is actually one of the most powerful anti-overeating systems ever devised, and it works entirely without the eater even noticing. Here's the mechanism. Research on eating behavior has shown again and again that we eat with our eyes as much as our stomachs, and that portion size and plate size dramatically influence how much we consume. Put food on a large plate, and a normal portion looks small, so we serve ourselves more to fill the space. Put that same food across small dishes, and a modest amount looks generous and complete. The small dish structure of a Japanese meal, naturally leads to smaller total portions, not because anyone is restricting, but because the food is simply served in a way that makes a sensible amount feel abundant and satisfying. There's more to it. Eating from many small dishes also slows you down. You're moving between bowls, taking a bit of this and a bit of that, rather than plowing through one big pile. It naturally supports the slow, attentive eating we just talked about. And the variety across those small dishes makes the meal feel rich and satisfying, so you're content with less. Compare this to the Western default. One enormous plate, often with a single huge portion, eaten quickly. The Japanese meal is engineered, through nothing more than the dishes it's served in, to lead to eating less while feeling like more. The shift: serve your food across several small dishes instead of one big plate, and a sensible amount will naturally feel like plenty. That's number 3. Number 4, they build meals around variety and balance. Look at a traditional Japanese meal and you'll notice something. It's rarely one big thing. It's many small things, in balance. There's a guiding principle in Japanese cooking, sometimes described as aiming for a wide variety of ingredients and colors in a meal. A bit of rice, vegetables, some fish or protein, soup, fermented and pickled foods, all in modest amounts. The meal is diverse, balanced, and built from many different components rather than one dominant, heavy centerpiece. This variety and balance approach matters more for staying lean than it might seem. And here's why. When a meal is built from many different foods in modest portions, lots of vegetables, some protein, a moderate amount of rice, fermented foods, it tends to be naturally filling and satisfying relative to how heavy it is. You feel genuinely nourished and content, which reduces the urge to overeat or to snack heavily later. Contrast that with a meal built around one enormous, heavy, calorie-dense centerpiece, a giant portion of a single rich food, which can lead you both overfed and strangely still craving more. The balance and variety of a Japanese meal work with your appetite rather than against it. There's also the matter of vegetables and plant foods, which feature heavily in Japanese cooking. Meals rich in vegetables and lighter foods tend to be more filling relative to their heaviness, so you can eat a genuinely satisfying volume of food while it remaining light. And fermented foods, a staple of Japanese eating, support good digestion and gut health, which increasingly appears to play a role in overall metabolism and well-being. None of this is a diet. It's simply the traditional structure of a Japanese meal, which happens to be beautifully suited to keeping a person lean and satisfied at the same time. The shift: build meals from variety and balance, rather than one heavy centerpiece, and you'll feel fully satisfied on lighter, more nourishing food. That's number 4. Number 5, they treat drinks differently, tea instead of sugar. Here it is. Number 5, the one that flips something you've been taught on its head, and possibly the single most powerful habit on this entire list. And it's not about food at all, it's about what you drink. In much of the modern world, an enormous and often invisible source of weight gain comes not from meals, but from beverages. Sugary sodas, sweetened coffees, juices, energy drinks, and the endless stream of sugar-laden liquids people consume throughout the day, often without registering them as these drinks deliver a huge amount of sugar and empty energy. And crucially, they don't fill you up the way food does, so you consume all of it on top of your regular eating, without ever feeling more full. It's one of the biggest hidden drivers of weight gain in the world, and most people never even count it. Japanese eating culture handles drinks completely differently, and this is the reversal that surprises people. The default beverage in Japan is tea, most famously green tea, usually unsweetened, consumed throughout the day and with meals. Water and unsweetened tea, rather than sugary drinks, are the everyday norm, and this single difference has an outsized effect. By drinking mostly unsweetened tea and water, Japanese people avoid the massive, invisible load of liquid sugar that quietly expands waistlines across much of the rest of the world. There's no sugary soda with lunch, no sweetened coffee drink in the afternoon, no juice with breakfast, just tea and water, again and again. Here's why I call it the habit that flips everything. Most people, when they think about weight, focus entirely on food and completely ignore what they drink. And yet, drinks can be one of the largest hidden sources of weight gain there is. Simply shifting your default beverage from sugary drinks to unsweetened tea or water, while changing nothing else about your eating, can make an enormous difference. And it requires no dieting, no restriction of food, no willpower around meals at all. It's arguably the easiest, most powerful single change on this list, and it's one Japanese people make without ever thinking of it as a choice, because tea is simply what you drink. The shift: make unsweetened tea and water your default drink, and you eliminate one of the biggest hidden sources of weight gain without touching your meals. That's number 5. Number 6, they keep a natural rhythm to their eating. This habit is less about any single meal and more about the overall pattern of how eating is structured through the day. Traditional Japanese eating culture tends to follow a fairly natural, regular rhythm. Meals at mealtimes, eaten as proper sit-down occasions, with far less of the constant, all-day grazing and snacking that characterizes eating in much of the modern world. Here's why this matters. In many places, eating has become nearly continuous. A snack here, a nibble there, something in hand at all hours, a steady trickle of food and drink, from morning until late at night. This constant grazing adds up enormously, and much of it happens mindlessly, without any real hunger driving it, often out of boredom, habit, or stress. When eating is structured into proper meals instead, you naturally consume less, because you're eating in response to genuine mealtime hunger rather than picking at food all day long. The meal has a beginning and an end. You sit, you eat, you finish, and then you're done until the next meal. There's also a strong cultural sense in Japan of eating being a real, distinct activity, something you sit down and do properly, rather than something done constantly and casually in the background of everything else. This connects back to eating with attention and eating at the table. When meals are proper occasions rather than an all-day drizzle, each one is more satisfying, and the total amount eaten tends to be sensibly less. You're not restricting or skipping. You're simply eating in a natural rhythm of real meals, the way humans ate for most of history, rather than in the constant modern trickle that quietly adds up to far more than anyone realizes. The shift: eat proper meals in a natural rhythm, rather than grazing all day, and you'll eat less without ever feeling deprived. That's number 6. Number 7, they have a healthy, guilt-free relationship with food. We end with the habit that colors all the others, and it may be the most important of all, because it's what makes the entire approach sustainable for a lifetime. In Japan, there tends to be a relaxed, positive, guilt-free relationship with food. Food is enjoyed. It's a source of pleasure, of connection, of cultural pride. It's not framed as the enemy, not surrounded by anxiety and guilt and the constant mental math of good foods and bad foods that torments so many people in diet-obsessed cultures. Here's why this matters so profoundly, and why I saved it for last. In much of the modern world, people have a genuinely troubled relationship with food. It's a source of stress, guilt, obsession, and shame. They restrict, then feel deprived, then overeat, then feel guilty, then restrict again, caught in an exhausting cycle that never ends. And that very stress and guilt around food often drives overeating, emotional eating, binge eating, the rebound that follows every period of harsh restriction. The war against food creates the very problem it's trying to solve. The Japanese relationship with food sidesteps all of this, because eating is approached calmly, with pleasure and without guilt. There's no restrict binge cycle, no emotional weaponizing of food, no exhausting mental battle at every meal. Food is simply enjoyed, in sensible amounts, as a normal and pleasurable part of life. And this calm, healthy relationship is exactly what makes all the other habits sustainable, because none of them feel like deprivation. Eating to 80%, eating slowly, drinking tea, eating proper meals, none of it is a grim diet to be endured. It's just a pleasant, natural way of eating that a person can happily maintain for their entire life. That sustainability is the whole point. A diet you hate, you eventually quit. A way of eating you genuinely enjoy, you keep forever. And that's why Japanese people stay lean not for a few months, but for a lifetime. The shift: enjoy food calmly and without guilt, and healthy eating stops being a battle you have to win and becomes simply how you live. That's number 7. What this looks like at a single real meal? Before we bring it all together, let me show you what these 7 habits look like woven into one ordinary meal, because seeing them work together is what makes the whole thing click and reveals just how effortless it actually is. Picture a simple Japanese dinner. It arrives not as one towering plate, but as several small dishes: a modest bowl of rice, a small piece of grilled fish, a dish of simmered vegetables, a little bowl of miso soup, some pickled sides, perhaps a small portion of tofu. Right away, number 3 is working. The food is spread across small dishes, so a sensible amount already looks generous and complete. And number 4 is working too. The meal is varied and balanced, many different foods in modest amounts rather than one heavy centerpiece, so it will be deeply satisfying without being heavy. The person sits down at the table, no television blaring, no phone in hand. They pour a cup of unsweetened green tea. Number 5, quietly eliminating the invisible liquid sugar that would otherwise pile on top of everything. They begin to eat, moving between the small dishes, a bit of this, a bit of that. Because there are many small bowls, they eat slowly, naturally. Number 2, actually tasting each thing, giving that 20-minute fullness signal time to catch up. And as they eat with attention, they stay aware of how full they feel, and they stop while there's still a little room left. Number 1, harahachibu, the 80%. They finish feeling satisfied, not stuffed, content, not heavy. And because this was a real proper meal eaten at a real mealtime. Number 6, they won't be grazing mindlessly all evening. They're genuinely done until the next meal. Through all of it, there's no guilt, no anxiety, no mental math of good and bad foods. Number 7, just the calm enjoyment of a nice dinner. Now, count what actually happened there. That person ate a full, varied, genuinely satisfying meal. They didn't count a single calorie. They didn't restrict a single food. They didn't feel one moment of deprivation. And yet, through nothing more than how the meal was structured and eaten, they naturally consumed a sensible amount and will stay lean, effortlessly. That is the entire secret in a single meal. Not a diet fought with willpower, but a set of quiet habits that make a healthy amount the natural, enjoyable default. Repeat that meal in that way for a lifetime and you get exactly what Japan has, a nation that stays lean without ever dieting, bringing it all together. So let's gather all 7, because the pattern beneath them is the real lesson. Stopping at 80% full, eating slowly and with attention, serving food in small dishes, building meals around variety and balance, drinking unsweetened tea instead of sugary drinks, keeping a natural rhythm of real meals, and maintaining a calm, guilt-free relationship with food. Notice what connects every single one. Not one of these is a diet. Not one is about restriction, deprivation, cutting out foods, or fighting your own appetite through willpower. Every single one is a small habit about how you eat. The pace, the portioning, the arrangement, the rhythm, the mindset that quietly leads to eating a sensible amount, effortlessly and naturally. That's the entire secret of how an entire nation stays lean without dieting. They're not winning a war against food. They've simply built small, pleasant habits that make a healthy amount the natural default. So staying lean requires no battle at all, just the ordinary, enjoyable way they've always eaten. And this is exactly why it works when diets fail. A diet is a temporary war against your appetite, and appetite always wins in the end, which is why the weight always comes back. These habits aren't a war at all. They're a gentle, permanent way of eating that you can genuinely enjoy and sustain for the rest of your life, which is why they lead not to temporary weight loss, but to lifelong leanness. And here's what matters most for you. You don't have to adopt all 7 of these tonight, and you certainly shouldn't try to overhaul everything at once, because that turns this into exactly the kind of harsh, all-or-nothing effort that always collapses. Instead, do what actually works. Choose one. Just one. The one that struck you most as you were listening. Maybe it's stopping at 80%. Maybe it's switching your drinks to unsweetened tea. Maybe it's simply slowing down and actually tasting your food. Pick that single habit, practice it at your next few meals, and just notice how it feels. That one small, sustainable change is worth more than any diet you'll ever start and quit. Because staying lean was never about the war. It was about the quiet, pleasant, everyday way you choose to eat. One note before we finish: everyone's body and health situation is different. So if you have specific health or dietary needs, it's always worth talking with a doctor or a qualified professional about what's right for you personally. Now I want to hear from you. Out of these 7 habits, which one are you going to try first? Tell me the number, 1 through 7, down in the comments. And if this gave you a genuinely new way of thinking about food, one that isn't about dieting and deprivation, share it with someone you know who's tired of the endless diet cycle. It might be exactly the shift they've been needing. I'll see you in the next one.